Welcome in to the Gaming Discourse. I am Tyler Frater alongside Richard A. the Cruz.
Hello.
And Chief Engineer Lieutenant Commander Connor Frater.
Good afternoon.
It is Monday, November 27th, 2023. Follow us on Twitter and Facebook at The Gaming Discourse. Go to our YouTube channel, YouTube/Gaming Discourse, Patreon.com/The Gaming Discourse. You can support us for $247 $10. New video released Friday, I think. It was either Friday or Saturday.
It was a good one.
Yeah, it's about, it's sort of an opinion I've had that I've expressed, but one day I was like, I need to just write this all down. Basically, it's about supply and demand in the AAA space, about what people want versus the stuff that's made. It's a point that has been made about Baldur's Gate 3, but I think it could have been applied to numerous games over the past 5 years. And basically, it's people. There's a demand, I think, for different experiences, for games that once may not have been considered market friendly. There is a larger demand for that kind of stuff. Another game, I think that's an example of this, is Elden Ring. Elden Ring is not a game 10 years ago that we would consider as a mass market game. Dark Souls was not. Dark Souls at one point was like a cult hit, right?
Yeah.
And then with Dark Souls 2, it became a little bit more mainstream, but now Elden Ring, I think, is sort of the first like mass market introduction to that kind of thing. And so basically the premise of the video is that there is a demand for that kind of stuff, and that the AAA industry at large, their focus on other things is mostly self-imposed and driven by goals that are unsustainable and stupid and stuff. So
but
please
Tyler,
go watch it.
Nobody wants to play single-player cowboy games.
You know, it's funny because if you watch the video, I open talking
Yes,
about
he
that.
does.
I
Yeah.
open talking about that because Jason Schreier, in his book Press Reset, talks. The first chapter is about Warren Spector and sort of his career in games, and right at the tail end of Deus Ex's development, I forget exactly what went down. But Deus Ex, I think, Ion Storm was purchased by... Wait, what happened? Doesn't matter. The point is, Warren Spector was working with Eidos. He wanted to make a game in the Wild West. Eidos said no, because games set in the West don't sell. Stupid. Red Dead Redemption comes out a couple of years later. And it's one of the biggest games ever made. So,
to be fair, Deus Ex didn't really sell.
So it's just like, it's just one of those things. And that's why when we bring that up, because we're referencing Strauss Zelnick,
Yes.
because Strauss Zelnick brings that up as if making a Wild West game is some like risky avant-garde, weird. Like, no, it's not. Stop it, okay? It's clearly it's something that's going to sell, especially if it's by a studio like Rockstar that has a history of like open world fun and stuff like that. You look like you're about to.
Yeah, it's also weird because a lot of the examples of either Western-inspired games or just straight Western games all have very positive outcomes. Starting with Red Dead, then you have Gun, and then later on you get stuff like Evil West or oh crap, what was that one that came out? That we played it with oh man, I can't remember their names. Voice actor, he's Hellboy.
Ron Perlman?
Yeah, Ron Perlman.
You're thinking of the roguelike.
Yeah. There's that one. I mean, and then
Dead
there's
of West.
Dead of West. Yeah, that was that one.
Yeah.
And then there's been plenty of examples of successes when it comes to
and it's all about how you
games.
define success, but that's a whole nother but even that definition of success, which the larger industry has, which is you make all the money in the world or you're complete failure, even that definition you can reach with a game set in the Wild West. So, like, those two are different. Anyway, go watch the video. Go watch it. I talk about it. I discuss it. I was pretty happy with it. I think it turned out like a decent essay. Okay, we have news. We're gonna be talking games. Connor,
Yes.
What have you been playing?
I was finally able to get back into Disco Elysium.
Oh, nice.
Partner picked it up
Nice.
in the Black Friday sale that was actually a Black Friday sale that PlayStation had going on.
Okay.
Yeah. I encountered a fake out death.
Interesting.
Yeah, and I was like, no, did I just think myself to death here? What's going on? But no, it was a fake out death. My character just passed out.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. What route are you taking this time?
What do you mean?
Like, what are your, because
Oh,
are you going more of like a physical endurance route, or are you going more of like an intellectual?
Intellectual.
Okay, cool.
The same way I tried when I got it on Switch, but then the Switch version is still broken.
I'm sorry. That's too bad. That's just too bad. Yeah, Disco Elysium is one of those games that I'll have to go back to one day, because it's just the writing is so thick, and there's so many things I didn't do because either like my strength wasn't to that skill set, or when the game ends. You don't get to like go around the world and finish stuff, which I think is appropriate for the story. But I imagine I missed so much finishing it. Did you get to the part where the Switch bugged out on you? Have you gotten there?
Yes, I've gotten past that part.
Nice. Okay, so where are you then?
So I guess it's not really spoilers, because it's stuff that you could well, not just old game, it's stuff that you could do within the first 30 minutes of play.
Okay.
So I got the body down. I've done the autopsy on the body.
Okay.
I've gone through the apartment block. I'm waiting for time to pass before I can go back to the guy's apartment to talk to him more. And currently I am exploring the rooms behind the bookstore.
Okay.
Yeah, going through that area.
Yeah, where the bookstore owner thinks there's a spirit that haunts her.
And then there's the area where there's the game development that's going on. That's maybe not so heavy-handed, saying, "Hey, you should fund our games."
Yeah. Which now, looking back on it, it's like, considering all the stuff that's gone down with the what is it, EM, the developer? I forget now. EM/EU.
I thought it was like ZA.
Oh yeah, ZAUM.
Yeah,
Zaum, something like that. Yeah. Okay, cool. You'll have to keep us keep us posted.
And I also picked up and started playing Sniper Elite 5.
Okay.
Very cool.
Nice. And it is campy as hell, but in like the best ways possible. Like, I picked up a crowbar, and the protagonist is like, a crowbar. Perfect for sabotaging Nazi equipment. It's like, and a bunch of other things too.
That may be the greatest. That line is better than anything in Disco Elysium. That's funny. Okay. Yeah. How do you liking the gameplay there?
So it's one that I am going to be going back through each mission multiple times, because you have your primary missions, you have your secondary missions, and then you have a whole bunch of collectibles to get throughout each mission. And my first time through the first mission, I messed up the order on some of the side objectives, because there's a large gun emplacement that's shooting rounds out into the channel, because it's the prelude to D-Day. And that gun is really loud, so it does a good job of masking your shots. I took it out while I still had some bonus objectives to do. I'm like, I should do that last, so that I can snipe people still.
Yep. Yeah, I played it a little bit. I thought it was pretty cool. It's one of those games that it provides you with a lot of different like difficulty options.
Yes.
And so I wanted to I wanted to make it difficult, the stealth and the shooting, but I didn't want to make the combat difficult, because the combat's not that great, I didn't think. Yeah. So I didn't play it very much, because it was like, I couldn't really get into it, but I hope you enjoy it.
It's pretty fun so far. Yeah.
Yep. Okay, anything else?
That's it.
Richard?
I haven't been playing anything.
No, you lying? You lying? You lying.
Playing Alan Wake, the only thing I've been playing. And I'm almost done. I'm on the point of no return.
Okay, yeah.
Where they basically tell you, like, hey, at this point, this is it. So I stopped, and I decided to check out all the collectibles, or to get all the collectibles, which is kind of a bad idea.
To do at the very end.
Yeah. Because it's nighttime and it's raining. Yeah. So it's just a little tougher to see, and you always have to have your flashlight on. But it's not the worst thing there. I can manage. Wolves scare me more than anything in that game, which is weird, because they just pop out of nowhere. They just pop out of nowhere very quickly, and they are very difficult to trace.
And
they're somewhat unpredictable.
Yes, definitely. But Alan Wake 2, yes, is absolutely my favorite game of the year. probably my game of the year personal. But I've found so much enjoyment from not only exploring the world, but making connections to the original game as well, at least ones that I can remember, because I didn't do the refresher like I planned to do with Alan Wake Remastered, but seeing some of these characters either be mentioned or come back, or having vague remembrances of situations that happened in the first game has been such a delight to re-experience again. And so that's fueled me to want to hurry up and beat the game, but I'm taking my time so I can find more pages of the manuscripts, because I love listening to the writing in that game, and I love listening to which I forgot to mention last week when we were talking about Game Awards. Very weird that Matt Poiretta wasn't nominated for best voice actor or best performance, because although I'm sorry, I can't remember her name, although she does a great job at Saga, I think Alan has way more to work with regarding his situation. I know what you mean. And Saga's performance, although really good, is very interesting because she kind of already just accepts that everything is happening, and she's not really fazed by anything going on. Whereas Alan has kind of already lost his sanity to an extent, and so everything is like getting to him. So I think that the performance from Alan is a cut above everything. Also, I can't remember his name either, but the one who plays Casey is really good too.
Oh, that provides the voice.
Yeah. I love all the characters in the game, and I'm so glad that certain factions appear in the game as well, particularly the FBC, and what they're kind of doing and tying everything together and creating this one. There's a couple more mysteries to explain in the game, which obviously will come into the finale, but there's also some slightly shocking moments that I'm kind of wondering if my theories will be correct on. So it's just a matter of me gathering all the relevant collectibles now and then heading into the final fight.
So one of my favorite moments in the entire game, I won't spoil what happens, but I'll reference it and you'll know, is a character emerges that has to do with Alan Wake.
Okay.
And the character emerges and does something to another character, and you get the ending screen. And the song that plays is Dark, Twisted, and Cruel.
Yeah.
Right? Where it's na-na, na-na, na-na,
yeah,
and then there's a huge bass drop, and it's like this, what's the term when audio is like so loud that it gets distorted? Distortion? Yeah. It's like this distorted rap.
Yeah.
Do you remember that moment?
I don't.
You don't?
No.
It was okay. Never mind.
In the jail cell?
Yeah.
Okay. So it was that moment. Okay.
Yeah, it was that moment. Yeah. Oh my God, that was maybe one of my favorite moments. That may have been just that, like, because something huge happens, cuts to black, it plays that song, and you're like, "Holy shit!" Such a good moment.
Which I had a feeling was coming. Well, actually, I had a feeling it was coming because there was a slight detail in that when Alan appears in Bright Falls, he's wearing a black suit.
Yes.
But in the Dark World, he's wearing a slightly brown suit. Like it's almost black, but it's like more brown. So you're kind of like, what is it? Like, what's going on? So
yeah, exactly.
So it's very cool detail that if you're not paying attention to very, very much.
Yeah, it's I won't say too much, but I'll say this: Wake's relationship with Scratch is just so interesting, and they took it a different direction than they did with Alan Wake's All-American Nightmare, where Scratch was a really cool villain, but in that one he was a little more, I think, almost not generic,
not flamboyant, but he was very, very theatrical.
Very theatrical. He was very
mustache twirly.
Yeah, he was very like Heath Ledger Joker. I remember there was a scene you can find where he has all these knives laid out and he's going through and he's like, this knife is if you're at close range and you want to hide it. This one's if you really want to do some damage. And he's like going through each knife, like telling you. So that's like very creepy. This one, Scratch is is differently characterized. Like Scratch is just a pure force of evil. There's no like suave personality, which I think is really interesting. So you got through the movie theater.
Yes, that was awesome.
Oh my god. Okay, so you have to change words to change the setting.
Yes.
Maybe one of the most terrifying things I've ever seen in the game is you have to change something in the movie theater, and different stuff flashes on the screen in the movie theater, and then you change it to something, and what appears on the movie theater's screen is just one item that's at the oh my god, and you have to go up and interact with it. So freaking good. How did you like all the Alex Casey interludes where you'd find him and he'd have like a quick
the echoes?
Yeah,
the echoes are really the only word I could think of is enthralling, because it's when it starts, I have this like, even though I'm only one home right now, I'm like, everyone shut up. Like, I have to watch this. It has to, like, what is going on next? Because this...
Just yelling at your cat.
Yeah, right, yeah.
Shut up! Shut the fuck up! Shut up!
Because Casey, the guy, the voice actor for Casey, is able to... I don't know Alex Casey. You know, from the games, we only know him as the person that Alan Wake is writing about. Like, his... Jack Reacher or his whatever. So when you hear his monologues and interludes, you immediately already are connected to like Casey as a person, as a detective. And when his arc kind of ends somewhat, at least where I am, I don't know if there's any more, when it kind of ends, you kind of have this feeling of completion, even though it's kind of a bittersweet one. Is very extremely... Sam Lake knows how to fucking write. That's all I can say.
Yeah, because there's a story within a story, because Wake is caught in the dark place, and he's walking around, and the dark place is like a reflection of his own anxieties and his own
anything that's on his mind,
cynical
currently.
beliefs. So you see like the posters of Alex Casey movies,
yes,
right?
Yeah,
which is like, I don't know, is that Wake's disassociation? Is that his like what's the word I'm looking for? Is he like, whatever, take my work and just use it for movies, franchise it, I don't care anymore.
Yeah,
like that's sort of like that attitude. But at the same time, as you're playing as Wake, you get those echoes where it's literally Alex Casey following the cult.
Yes.
So there's this other story happening in this weird world. And man, his performance is just, you're correct. Every time you find one of those monologues, you just sit back and it's just like this amazing, I track the cult to the bottom of a subway.
And that explains a lot, because he's also the former director in Control. So when he pops up in Control, it is just like okay, shut up, I have to listen to this guy. Like, his voice is just commanding in that way. But that's another aspect. I love the dark place, and I love the city block that you are running in as Alan Wake, because you, just like you mentioned, his insecurities kind of pop up everywhere. So you see the graffiti of like Save Alice, or you see the graffitis of like Scratch, or Ocean View Hotel, and AWE all over the place, which are really like neat callbacks to everything that you've done up until that point. So I'm very excited to beat the game. I want to know how everything wraps up. And one of my favorite parts, actually, one of my favorite parts was the revelation of Thor and Odin's part in all of it, and the subsequent abilities that they're shown to have. I thought that was a really cool moment regarding them in the real world and Saga. So I know we're being extremely vague, but anyone who's played it will know. They'll know.
Yeah.
Real quick, the voice actress for Saga is Melody Liburd, and awesome. Alex Casey is James McCaffrey.
So
Thank
good.
you.
Yep. The entire cast just mind-blowingly good. How well they do. And I had something to say.
Oh, I love Alan's wife too.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Alice's monologues. Alice has monologues.
I don't think any game has ever mixed live action with, I'm not sure if CGI is the correct term, but live action with like in-engine CGI ever. I don't know if any game, no dissing on Command and Conquer, but I don't know if any game, because you will go, because yes, as Wake, you go to Alice's and Wake's apartment in the dark place, and you watch Alice's, she records herself as an art piece talking about her reaction to her thinking that Alan had died in the first game.
Yeah.
And it's just her, and of course, very David Lynchian. There's a lamp. It's just her shot. She's wearing black. It's all black. There's one yellow lamp in the background that flickers every now and then. And of course, the lamp is, if you look at the shot, it's weird because the lamp is like, you can see everything in the lamp. You can see if I remember correctly, it's like you can see the pole, you can see where it's set. You can't see anything else around the lamp though. And the lamp is also like oddly raised. Like if you were to picture a room around her, it seems like the ground would not be that high in the background of the shot. So it's all very strange. But yes, when she's talking into the camera, it's just like, they just keep, I don't know what they do, but it's, everybody they bring into the game, it's just an Oscar-worthy performance, like everywhere, and I don't know what the hell's going on.
And yeah, she has to do it. It's just her. Like she's not interacting with anybody, so she has to deliver these monologues.
Yeah,
to this camera on her own, and it's great to also see the repercussions of Alan leaving and the darkness taking over, not just like what he knows, or not just Cauldron Lake, but what he knows in his own life as well.
Oh my God! One other performance. Mr. Door.
Yeah, Mr. Door's great. Yeah.
Oh
as soon as
God.
I saw his actor, I was like, "Oh, this is gonna be good."
Yes, there's that. So you see Mr. Door a couple times, and of course it's all weird. And then there's the shot where Mr. Door drops his facade.
Yeah,
and it's just his silhouette.
His reveal that I was kind of like, I think I already know where it's going, but I'm like, oh.
But it's that shot. I took a screenshot of it where it's his silhouette, because he's the host of the
talk show host, yeah.
And it's his silhouette up against like a New York City skyline. But this time the lights are off and you just see him sitting at the, and then he walks up over to Sam and he like gets real. He gets real for a second. God, this entire game just everything.
And also every game needs an old weird Finnish magical guy.
Oh my God, we completely forgot about Ahti.
Yeah.
Yes, Ahti.
Ahti, returning character from Control, who's like super mystical. He's like an old Finnish guy, and he speaks in both Finnish and English. Like he'll start his sentence in Finnish and then like end it in English. But he just like, everything is going nuts. There's a part when you're in an old folks home, which is scary as shit.
Amazing.
But all the lights go off and you'll turn around and he's just standing there and he's just like, oh yes, beware the dark, you'll be all right. And like he just walks back to his room and it's like, okay, thanks, man.
Yeah, Ahti. I'm sure there are thousands of YouTube videos that explain what Ahti is and everything, but Ahti is interesting because he's one of the few characters that is both in the dark place and in the real world, but it's not like in the dark place, it's not like some hallucinated version of him. It is still him.
It's him, yeah.
So Alan and Saga both encounter Ahti, and of course Jesse Faden. That was the first person you encountered was Ahti in Control, which and again Ahti looks very much like
he looks
David
younger
Lynch.
now in this game.
Yeah, kind of strange. Yeah. He looks a little bit younger, but he does look like a Finnish David Lynch, like the big cowlick hair thing going on.
And he even has a live action version too, which is great to see.
Oh man,
a whole ass movie you could watch like in the theater.
I just yeah, I don't know, man. Looking back on that, I love Baldur's Gate 3. I love all the games that came out this year, but I don't know if I've ever played anything like Alan Wake 2. And I'm not sure if I'll ever play anything like it again, unless it's made by Remedy, because it's just so unique and interesting.
Give Quantum Break a shot.
I think I'm going to have to. I think I'm going to have to. Yeah. And I'm going to have to go back and play Control again, because
me too.
I'm sure there's all kinds of stuff that I have forgotten about or missed in Control. Okay, is there anything else you would like to say?
That's it.
Okay.
That's it.
Still playing Jedi Survivor, almost done with it. I will say that I'm still really enjoying it. It is weird how many technical issues there are. The screen tearing is so bad in some parts, which is weird because I'm playing on PS5 and I'm not. I'm just not used to screen tearing being a thing on a console, but apparently that's the era we're in now. But whatever. I think they have. I think Respawn has found a thing to do with Cal's character. I'm really interested what they're going to go and do. And so part of the problem with writing for Star Wars, but Star Trek as well, is okay. You set a game somewhere, but there are major things that probably happened before it and after, unless you set it 1,000 years in the future or you set it during the High Republic or something, right? And even then, there's probably stuff about the High Republic that you have to deal with, especially now it's all like a giant brand. So with Cal, it's like, and I have not finished it yet, I'm close, but with Cal, it's okay. So this is between 3 and 4. So Empire's at its height. Cal's surviving. We don't see Cal, obviously, in the movies, whereas we don't see him in any of the TV shows. So what is he? He'd be a little bit older by then. He's older than Luke by like 20 years. But he wouldn't be like so elderly he couldn't walk around or something like that. So it's like, what are they going to do with his character? On one hand, that's too bad because their creative choices, I think, they have to take in consideration these like other factors into their what they decide to do with the character. But I will say that Jedi Survivor is interesting because it's about Star Wars is all about good and evil. And it's about how good people can be twisted into doing evil things. And oftentimes I think the vector through which Star Wars does this is with like the Jedi and Sith, right? So Anakin is twisted into the dark side because his fears are used to manipulate him. He loses control of his anger and he becomes Darth Vader. But in recent years with series like Andor, I don't know if you guys have watched Andor, it's really good. Suddenly the story is not so much Jedi and Sith. Now it's fascism, oppression, totalitarianism, and our reaction to that, and how larger governmental forces like that can twist people into becoming evil, or not even, well, depending on your definition of evil, maybe you're not a stormtrooper, but maybe you pass some information that helps stormtroopers, you know, so you're a collaborator or something. And so that's kind of what Jedi Survivor is dealing with, because it's less about Cal, the Cal's balance between like the Jedi and Sith, dark side, light side of the Force, and it's more about how the Empire has forced people to make decisions about their lives and force people to make compromises. And it being Jedi Survivor, what is Cal gonna do to survive? What are the compromises that he deems worthy of making in order to survive and move on and trying to build something? There's a speech in Andor that is really, really good where one of the rebellion spies, this rebellion spy is gonna do something bad to get one up on the Empire, and someone calls him out for hypocrisy. But what he essentially says is that I am sacrificing it. I'm not going to do the speech here justice, but what he essentially says is what I'm sacrificing in the battle against the Empire is my ability to win the war and then live my life. He's like, because the stuff that the Empire has forced me to use their own tools to defeat them. And therefore I will never be redeemed. I will never be redeemable, but the people that come after me will be able to reap the rewards of what I'm doing now. So therefore, that's why this is worth it. And that's why in that rebellion, that person in the rebellion's mind, they may be a hypocrite, but they're on the better side of this hypocrisy. And I think that's kind of what Jedi Survivor is leaning into. And I think I'll leave it there because I do need to finish it. And there has been a little bit of a hook. I said last week that the story was good, but there hasn't been like a real hook moment where it's like, okay, now I'm really invested, really interested. Jedi Survivor did deliver that. Okay. We're ready to go. Let's do the ad. Thanks for listening. If you like our content, please consider subscribing or leaving a like and comment. You can find us at patreon.com/thegamingdiscourse. And our tiers are $2, $4, $7, and $10 and include getting your name in the video credits, early access, and access to our Discord server. Okay, so what we're going to do is we have this story by Cecilia D'Anastasio about Roblox, and I'm going to find the title of it real quick. Roblox attempts realism as players stick with blocky absurdity. So usually we talk about a piece, we break it down, and then we discuss it. I'm just going to read a huge chunk of this piece because I think this piece is really interesting and speaks to a lot of different things. Connor, Richard, you guys interrupt when you have something you want to say or whatever. I may interrupt myself if I come across something that I want to say. So consider this a gaming discourse reading series. We are the first podcast to think of doing something like this. No other podcast has ever had somebody read an article.
The only podcast on the internet.
The only podcast on the internet where someone has read an article and the other hosts have reacted possibly to the things that are being said. So we are truly pioneers. Okay, so again, Cecilia D'Anastasio writing for, which by the way, she writes for Bloomberg now, which I guess she was at Wired. She needs to stop going to all these publications and being successful. Calm down, please. Roblox attempts realism as players stick with blocky absurdity. Quote, at Roblox Investor Day in November.
Well, November? I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'm so sorry. I just had to.
There you go, fellas.
Wait a minute.
That's all we have time for. We'll see you next week.
Roblox, I really was proud of myself for the setup.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
No, it's fine.
Keep going.
It's fine. At Roblox Investor Day in November and in many shareholder communications, executives paint Roblox as a budding metaverse not unlike the one in Neil Stephenson's seminal novel, Snow Crash. First thing I'd like to say is how obnoxious it is that everybody is so concerned with making something like Snow Crash.
I don't know what Snow Crash is.
So Neil Stephenson, so it's like a cyberspace type thing. Okay, I've never read the book either, but another comparison would be like William Gibson and Neuromancer talks about hackers like jacking in the Matrix as something that's somewhat similar. The planet. Something similar. But when it comes to like Metaverse and Decentraland and all this stuff, comparisons to Snow Crash have become omnipresent, and it's just really obnoxious, partially because I've never read the book, but I think famously with a lot of science fiction that deals with cyberspaces, usually a lot of problems and adversarial relationships and conflict comes from the cyberspace itself. Right? It's like watching The Matrix and thinking, oh yeah, no, Cypher's right. The Matrix is a good thing. No, it's the Matrix is bad. That's the point of the movie. Is if you're jacked into the Matrix, you're not accepting reality.
Ignorance is bliss, okay?
Okay, well, let me have my steak. I'm eating this steak. Exactly.
Humans aren't great batteries anyway, so might as well just, live out that fantasy.
Anyway, continuing. A place where photorealistic avatars chat, dance, and learn and fight in lifelike coffee shops, schools, volcanoes, etc.
Hold on, I'm sorry. So the one thing that actually very much annoys me about the previous statement you just said, and not only what we were talking about at the start of the podcast with Western games not being successful, etc., is it's astounding how people these companies, Roblox, Zuckerberg with Horizon Worlds, like keep forgetting that this stuff already exists. Like we already have had Second Life. We've already had metaverse or, quote unquote metaverses like Gaia Online and Neopets, and even PlayStation Home did it. Like it's baffling that they believe that, I don't know, they have something new and noteworthy.
It just always reminds me of, like whenever someone in Silicon Valley, one of the tech pros, invents something, and the internet's like, "Hey guys, they invented trains again."
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. We'll get in. There's a big chunk of this piece is exactly what you just said.
Oh, okay.
But returning to the piece, so schools, volcanoes, etc. Quote: "This is really driving our growth." Quote: Dave Bashewski said at Investor Day. Dave Bashewski is the co-creator and CEO of Roblox, I think. Referring to Roblox's moves toward 3D simulations, there is no doubt that Roblox has made some substantial moves toward Bashusky's vision. Witness the righteously fun, high-fidelity shooting game Frontlines or the cyberpunk game Beyond the Dark. Roblox now has facial tracking, voice chat, and the ability to make avatars that look, if not entirely realistic, at least a little more like Mark Zuckerberg's and Meta, still niche Horizon Worlds metaverse. But for the most part, Robloxians are creatures of nostalgia who are stubbornly sticking to their well-established routines and aesthetics. When I log into Roblox, I see thousands of Lego-like avatars with beady eyes and Happy Meal smiles. They're not taking work calls or studying physics. All right, so another thing that I think people... I don't think... I think like developer, and when I say developers, I don't mean game develop. A lot of these people that are like making metaverse spaces or investors is what you can do in a metaverse, and is it better than doing that in real life? And we've had this conversation on this podcast a lot. And one of the things that I always bring up, I incessantly bring this up, is the commercial where it was a commercial for Quest 2. I'm never gonna not get over this. I'm never going to get over this. Commercial for a Quest 2 where a woman is recording with her band and she has like a piano in front of her and she's adjusting some kind of software for music, some audio editing software, and she's doing it with her headset on. So it's mixed reality, right? Okay, but the problem is that would be so inconvenient to do if you're mixing audio, because you've got this headset on, then you have to take it off, and then you got to put it back on, messes with your hair if you do your hair, messes with your makeup if you do makeup, you have to like adjust it and everything, you're going to have to update it. Is all of that really more convenient than just having a laptop next to you with audio editing software on it?
So I'm going to let you in onto like a small little secret from the recording world. Most studios I've been to haven't updated their recording software since the mid 2000s. The studio that my band recorded our EP at, we recorded on reel to reel. Yeah. Like, you know, 60s tech.
Nice.
And then it was imported into digital software.
So part of the problem is this new technological infrastructure that tech guys are looking at music guys and saying, this is really cool. Don't you want to use this? Don't you want to use this? And some dude sitting in a recording studio that he's owned for 30 years is just no. I don't need a headset. Now, beyond that, the other thing is how many of these things are just, why do you want to be in a metaverse to do it?
Right.
To take a work call.
Right.
Why be in a metaverse? It's on your phone already.
Yeah. Yeah. It makes me think of the documentary that just came out for Half-Life. A couple days ago. But there's a part in there that's being passed around of Gabe Newell. When they were making Half-Life, they were like, well, let's make it more realistic. And he's like, well, what do you mean by that? Like, I go home, like, and I write things on, I write things to do on my list of things to do. And, I have to make food. I don't want to do that. And that's not why I'm here. Yeah. I'm here to play games. I'm here to have fun. And I don't think Roblox, people are going there to hang out. VR chat, people are going there to hang out. They're not going there to do work. They're going there to escape, plain and simply. So. And it's not necessarily that social spaces are impossible in VR, but I think that the social spaces that people want to invest in, that the kind that people imagine they can make money off of, don't really exist. Because the people that are chatting in VR chat, right? It's a social experience. People hop in. It's emergent. It's weird. Whatever, right? Okay. But investors see that and they're like, okay, how do we take that and put it inside a digital GameStop? And then maybe you click on a link and you can buy a game there, right? All these other steps, all this weird stuff. But the problem is you're taking this like established culture and you're trying to shove it into a commercialized, commodified paradigm, and it just doesn't work. Yeah. because the thing emerged out of a non-commercialized arena, right? Anyway, continuing on. And they're not taking calls or studying physics. They're playing red light,
red light, green light. If you lose, you get shot, or climbing up the Tower of Hell. Roblox's most popular games are, in many ways, its most basic. That's because many are made by kids for kids. According to my analysis, most of Roblox's realistic games are so far floundering. As I write this, just 2 people are playing the photorealistic Beyond the Dark, and there are only 505 active people in Roblox Connect. Humanoid avatars are like unicorns. Roblox needs to keep pace with its user base as they grow older, and this is the strategy. But what will these kids want in 5 years? Another metaverse? Or a platform for AAA games? Or an endless conveyor belt of Schuberic weirdness, which is a word I had to look up. It means childlike.
Cherubic.
Like cherubic.
Thank
Like
you.
a cherub.
Cherub. Yeah.
Okay, I did not know that. Apparently everybody knows that. Whatever.
I know because of 40K.
Oh, really?
I know because of Chubby Cherub on the NES.
We all have our ways. Anyway, conveyor belt of cherubic weirdness. I have a guess.
Actually, no, I'm kidding.
Well, actually.
One thing they don't seem to want, here's an important line, meaning the users of Roblox, one thing they don't seem to want is branded experiences. Even so, they're going to get them.
Wow.
Recently, my avatar spawned in a wide cul-de-sac outside West Elm's Roblox outpost. It was cold and intimidating, like an abandoned suburban outlet mall. I walked through the glass doors into a megastore lined with synthetic bed frames, benches, and bookshelves with brass finishes. Just like the designs of the products, the prices at West Elm Roblox are consistent with the real world. A mid-century A-frame bench sold for $449. Nobody was there. As the broader industry's ambitions for the metaverse deflate, CEOs and investors are learning one of gaming's most persistent truths. Realness and immersion are not the same. Really good piece by Cecilia D'Anastasio.
So, a little piece of internet history and trivia that a lot of people don't know is toward the start of like commercialized internet, like I'm talking before like really AOL had a like big kickoff. There were 2 schools of thought for what the internet would be. One, what we have today, and the other was a more what they're wanting, a avatar driven like 3D experience living in a cyberspace.
Sure.
It didn't work then because nobody wanted that.
Yeah.
And it just wasn't. It's not even that the technology wasn't there. It's that people didn't care enough about having that level of, you know, having billboards in cyberspace. And so they're just doing this again. They're trying it again, but now in video games instead of just the internet.
Yeah. And another thing is I don't think more people play video games than ever, but sometimes it seems like nobody plays video games, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, because they're all playing Madden or Call of Duty.
Because it's like Cecilia D'Anastasio, she's someone who covers Roblox.
Mm-hmm.
And I think she knows more about Roblox than or experiences more of it or understands it on a deeper level than definitely more than some investors. And I don't know. I don't think she would say this, but maybe even more than some of the people that work on it. Because it is this weird, like, a lot of kids play it, but it's not necessarily a child-centric service. I don't think only kids play it. I'm sure there are some adults here and there that are doing different things. But understanding that outside of a commercialized context, I think, is difficult. And explaining why it is popular and other things aren't. And I think maybe one reason for that is just sometimes things get popular and other things don't, and there's no real reason for it. Sometimes it's a virality thing where something goes viral on TikTok and a bunch of people do it, and then it sustains itself or something.
Right.
But in this case, it's like explaining all that to somebody who has no point of reference, right? And we're being tongue-in-cheek here because I don't want to say all you do is play Madden and COD. Like at the same time, there is partial truth to that. Is there's a certain point of reference that I think if you're there makes understanding or perceiving what's going on in Roblox and then how to like build it up and make it good tough to understand. I was in GameStop a couple weeks ago, and this happened. Like every time I go into GameStop, something like this happens. And I'm sure working at a game store, you've experienced this a lot. You realize how little people know about games, which is fine. It's fine.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a bad thing to be someone that plays a game here and there. But I think it does sort of show that if this is how many different people are like differing levels of depth into understanding games, it's probably even worse when it comes to people that have these diversified portfolios and throw money at this thing that their kids do, but they really don't understand it, right? But anyway, I was in a GameStop a couple of years ago, and a guy came in, and he was looking for the new Call of Duty, and he was trading in Modern Warfare 2, and he was going to get Modern Warfare 3. And I could tell that he's not reading reviews. He doesn't know that no one likes Modern Warfare 3 online, which is fine. I'm not saying this guy wasn't informed or anything, but his world is just a different world. He has other interests, and this is just a thing he does with his friends. He doesn't really care if IGN gives it a 4 or whatever. He doesn't even know what IGN is. It's just this one thing that he does. And I think when you see that, you realize how many different points of reference there are to gaming, and I don't know, it's not a problem if you're just somebody who is just doing it casually, but if you're somebody who's lending capital to it, I think that worries me a little bit, because then you're giving economic power to a type of business that maybe shouldn't exist. And I'm not sure if all of Roblox's business strategies, one, are ethical, and two, should exist in the first place. We've had that discussion before.
You don't think that people should fund a company that's based around child labor?
No.
Controversial.
I'm gonna say
scandalous.
I'm gonna say no. Is there anything else we would like to? I think we've basically covered everything.
There are, as much as bad you could talk about Roblox, I mean, I think there's still a lot of good things about it to an extent. One of my best friends, his son plays Roblox all the time. But anytime I go over to his house, he plays other games too, and he's very good at them at his age. But when I go to his house, he's always generally on Roblox, but he's making movies. Like he's in like a movie editor, like doing things. And there's some merit to it, although like we can sit here and point out all the problems that that Roblox has. That is something that he is doing that can spark interest in something else. Maybe he'll move on to editing, an actual movie editors or whatnot, but maybe he'll make, music videos or something. So it's very cool. But knowing what I read online, and of course all the evidence against how bad Roblox is, I do still have that at least one reference of real life influence I see. Because the young kids are going to do what they want to do, not necessarily what these guys are telling them to do.
Yes. Yes. So. And I think when we talk about the problems of Roblox, maybe the largest one is you hope kids that find interests or learn skills or whatever have ways of translating that outside the Roblox universe. Because Roblox as a company, if you're making Roblox games, they don't want you to go to Unreal and release your game on Steam. No. Stay within the Roblox ecosystem, because then they can monetize you, right? And I guess that's true for a lot of different creative endeavors. When you have like a large publisher, they don't want you to, find ways to monetize it outside of them. And I do think it is worrying that a lot of kids, they're gaining these skills, but it's like, are you able to take those interests and skills and move yourself outside of the Roblox ecosystem so you can go do something for yourself rather than essentially making games for what is a YouTube of gaming type thing, right? Imagine if like every famous filmmaker started on YouTube and never got outside of YouTube, right? That would be a problem. Right. And I don't think I'm being a cranky old man when I say that. I think that's a real issue, right? Because the ecosystem right? I'm not crazy, right?
No.
Oh, okay. Just looking for a little validation there.
I think one thing I want to say is that the push towards like metaverse or those type of environments is it's never gonna happen until either the holodeck is invented or until we all have chips in our head that enable us to always be in it.
Yeah.
Because it is 200% easier for me to pick up my phone and call you than to be like, hey, let's put on our headsets and connect, and then have to deal with all the interface between that. It is infinitely easier for me just to call you and say, hey, we're talking about this right now.
Or send me a text.
Or send you a text.
Yeah.
Or an email. There are avenues that are a lot better and a lot more efficient than what they want.
Yeah.
Because what they want is that, but also monetized.
And inside of a McDonald's or some shit.
Yeah.
One other thing that bothers me, this is completely random, but it's just with commercials and how people perceive games. There's a Cox Internet commercial that is popping up every now and then. Now that it's football season, I have to watch commercials. Every other time of the year, I don't have to, because it's either I'm watching sports on a streaming service, so the commercials aren't there or whatever. But there's a Cox commercial where it's like this guy... It's like, with 5G Cox, go fuck yourself internet, you're going to be able to fly a jet airplane just like back in the day. And he takes off his headset and there's like his wingman and he's like, good job, man. I'm like, you can do that now. It's called VTOL. It's a flight sim. There's a game, right? It's not the future, Cox. You can do it now.
The future's now, old man.
Exactly. It's like, it may not have realistic graphics, but damn it, it's a flight sim where you have to like lock targets and confirm, and there's radar and
and it's Microsoft Flight Simulator.
And yes, and Jesus Christ, thank you. So it's like the person that made that, it's like their only experience with video games is Mario, and that's it. And they're like, oh yeah, I know what's going on. One day you'll be able to pick up a shotgun in a VR game and shoot zombies, and they think that no one's ever been able to do that before. And it's just like, again, but it's just a stupid commercial, so I shouldn't get too angry about it, but I'm going to anyway. And clearly I already have.
But also, just to circle back to what you said at the very end of mine, is like, and they want that to happen like in a McDonald's. Again, infinitely easier. I could be like, hey, let's go to McDonald's and to talk about this, and we get the added benefit of actually being able to get food there.
Yeah.
Instead of order food, wait for it to be delivered. We could, within 5 minutes, get our chicken nuggies and have a conversation over chicken nuggies.
The only reason you brought that up was because you wanted to use the words
chicken nuggets. Yes,
that was the only reason.
It's a good point, though.
It's a good point.
Yeah, and
Thank you.
Okay, I'm sorry. I think another issue with like metaverse branding shit is, I'm sure we all have a couple of restaurants that aren't chained. That aren't like chain, right? That are locally owned or something. Mm-hmm. But how many of those restaurants are going to be able to finance some kind of like
none
branding in a metaverse somewhere?
Yeah. None, because they'll be outbid by McDonald's or Burger King.
So much of culture is the brands and the shit you're seeing are the heavy hitters, are the highly monetizable, are the big franchises, right? Mm-hmm. Which removes local identity, which removes those like mom and pop type things, right? Because the financial space that metaverses are doesn't have a space for those.
No, because the metaverse is by corporations for corporations.
Exactly. So it's even more corporatized, more sanitized. Okay, you can play a jet game right now in VR.
And you can have meetings over chicken nuggies right now.
There's a few of them, all right? You're not a genius. Animal Crossing is already a metaverse. Stop it, Mark. Mark, stop it. No one wants your shitty metaverse. Anyway, okay. There's no easy way to transition. We're going to talk about a serious story now. Black Myth Wukong devs team has a history of sexism and kind of a strange history that we'll get into. This is written by IGN's Rebecca Valentine and Ki-Hung Chan, I think. I tried my best to pronounce that. There are a few names here that I'm not going to do well at pronouncing. I'm sorry. The story is kind of split into two parts. The culture at Game Science, which is a developer of Black Myth Wukong, and the culture of the wider online Chinese gaming internet, which has to do with Chinese feminism and misogyny in Chinese culture. I think this story is fairly complicated, and so I'm not sure how much we'll be able to like parse it. But anyway, breaking down some of the notes here, a recurring theme is the cultural grievance that games shouldn't have to appeal to women, and that making games that somehow appeal to women is wrong or pandering or politically correct, or even pandering to the political correctness of Western powers, aka the United States and maybe Great Britain. I don't know. Specific examples from game science include Feng Ji, I think. One of the studio's co-founders has a history of making weird metaphors and posting strange sexual innuendos on social media. He criticized the studio's first trailer for Blacksmith, saying he wanted to expand my circle and hire more people, get licked until I can't get an erection. He also said, I know you happen to be a little depressed. It is my honor to provide you with some comfort in the lower half of your body. In 2015, Game Science published several recruitment posters. Text on the posters included mandatory self-pleasure, don't screw your colleagues, and fatties should fuck off. Okay, so that was a brief summary of the story. The story was fairly long, but I think my big takeaway was it was almost like reading the Riot story all over again, by another one by Cecilia D'Anastasio. It's sort of the weird frat bro like culture within Riot. Now, if I remember correctly, I don't think they were able to talk with anybody that works at Game Science, which made it particularly weird, because it's like I would have liked to hear of people that may be wrong, but I don't think anyone in the story that I read was. It may have been former workers. I don't remember, but so yeah. Do we have anything we wanted to say off the top about any of this? And one of the reasons I said it was strange was because it has to do with like a culture going through a change right now. China is an incredibly complex country, like they all are. But they connect a lot of the online misogyny with like China's one-child policy, which has created a gender gap and whatnot. So there's like strife and anger over that, which I think the story sort of says has manifested into a lot of online misogyny and whatnot. Anyway, okay, I'm sorry, I spoke long enough. Do we have any high-level takeaways or anything we want to say? I didn't want to let the story go by without addressing it.
I don't know where to start. Or, I mean, I don't even know what to say, because it is difficult to tiptoe around a conversation regarding such an intricate topic with knowing this is coming from a different country with a different culture, and we have no dealings of what goes on over there. But the one thing that is obvious is the stuff that is said on these recruitment posters, the stuff that is said by higher ups, is absolutely wild, and I have no idea how it would attract anybody, or at least relate to anything that they do, because Black Myth hit the internet very hard with their first trailer, and has become kind of quite the popular anticipated game. But dealing with like what they're saying now, I know it was a while ago. What is it, 2015, right?
There's been a somewhat history
of it,
like a couple different years. Yeah,
it puts everything kind of in a different light, but it just sucks because we can't. When it comes to a different Riot, we can kind of do something about. Activision Blizzard, we can kind of do something about. Ubisoft, we can kind of do something about, but studio that's in another country that has their own prison, we can't do anything about it. I mean, we just comment on this stuff, but we can't change anything.
And misogyny is clearly wrong, no matter the context. But it's I think misogyny and bigotry is wrong, but you can also understand it like a disease. You can understand how it works, right? Yeah. Like cancer is bad regardless of the situation, but understanding cancer helps you defeat it, helps you know it, whatever. So in a similar light, I think like another issue with this is that it's from a different culture, which makes it more difficult to understand. And because like that the post by Fang Ji was really bizarre to me because that trailer came out and it was critical. It went viral.
Yeah.
Right,
It did.
and that was the response. So one, it's bizarre to drag your own trailer through the mud.
Mm-hmm.
And two, it's bizarre to use some of those weird metaphors.
Yeah.
Now, it's also translated, so there's that. But even then, it's just it's so weird, and it just reminds me a lot of Riot. How it was like some of the stuff that people said at Riot. It was just, why would you say that? Like what kind of weird culture? I don't know. So yeah, I'm sorry. I'm not going to be able to give you like a more educated intellectual take here, but I also just didn't want to not talk about this story. China is an interesting country, and when it comes to video games, as is Saudi Arabia, because I think both countries want to play ball with like Western money.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Especially, and this is, I think, more profound in some ways with Saudi Arabia, because that is the Saudi government, right? The Saudi Investment Group is literally the Saudi Public Investment Fund, or Public Wealth Investment Fund, or whatever it's called, is controlled by the Saudi government and Crown Prince bin Salman, I think his name is. As opposed to like when you're dealing with Tencent or Nexus or whatever, there is a disconnect between your country and the Chinese Communist Party, but there is also a relationship there.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like you have all these companies that are getting bigger and bigger. They're releasing these huge games. Their investments are becoming more and more omnipresent, but they're having to balance those financial stakes with appealing to like Western ideologies and Western sensibilities, which I guess is probably something that has always happened, has always been an issue one way or another when it comes to cultures dealing with one another. But these are somewhat extremes, I think, especially in the case of Saudi Arabia. But in any case, again, misogyny is never good. And I do wish that there was a little more. I wish we could know, because if this did happen in the United States, I think it would be easier to get like a Cecilia D'Anastasio to write a Riot piece where you can get you can contact people that have tried taking a job there or whatever.
Yeah.
But you can't with China for obvious reasons, and there's a language barrier, right? So all that stuff makes it weird. Misogyny is just such an annoying thing, because it's why. Like, I don't know. What's the big deal? I never understood why like appealing to people other than dudes it has ever been controversial or anything. I never understand why modernizing a game or making it where it's not. Remember with the changes for Resident Evil 4?
In the VR version or the remake?
I think both of them had similar changes, didn't they?
Yeah. The voice line, some of the voice lines, some of the things you can do. Yeah.
I thought, okay, that's probably appropriate.
Sure.
And some of the reaction online was like they, I don't know, burned the Mona Lisa or something.
Yeah. I mean, it was during the time, Resident Evil 4 is 2004, I think. That type of humor was quote unquote appropriate, or we could look back on it and be like, ha, I get it. But yeah, as your audience gets older, as everyone gets older, it does become like a maybe that's kind of not great,
Yeah, it's sophomoric and childish.
Yes,
yeah. So the larger point I was trying to make is like, because a lot of that was somewhat misogynistic. So it's like, why can't we change that? The argument always becomes something about like a larger cultural issue and not specific cases. And what I mean by that is like when we talk about things being removed from a game and we talk about specific instances of it, it is never, here is why, for example, Quiet would be an interesting conversation, right? It's like if they remade Metal Gear Solid 5 and they took out Quiet showering in a cage surrounded by dudes, it's like, okay, that's fine, whatever. It was kind of a dumb part of the game anyway, but that would make people angry. So it's like the argument from you needs to be then why does it need to be in the game? Yeah. And if your argument is, well, it's not that big of a deal, well, then it's just a matter of, okay,
well, then it's not important if it's not that big of a deal.
Or something like that. So it becomes like, so what that discussion, and I'm speaking in generalities here, because what that discussion eventually becomes is some like wider cultural, where everybody gets so mad at the littlest things now or whatever, right? As opposed to like, no, just tell me why this one thing is a bad change. And with Resident Evil, I think it was similar, where it was like people didn't like that things changed in Resident Evil 4. And it was all supposedly indicative of this larger cultural change rather than, well, tell me why those things are appropriate. And it's never, that answer never comes. Anyway, I'm speaking generalities. We're going on too long. Do we have tidbits?
We do.
Hey, tidbit time. What if I told you in this world there are bits and there are tids, and Richard is the only man who can put them together into tidbits? You have to smoothly put them together. You can't bang them.
I'm putting the square into the circle hole. Like, come on. Surprise! I also have Chicano numbers, so I didn't reveal that to you. But all of my tidbits tonight are lost media and gaming preservation news.
Oh, yeah.
There's been a lot of developments in the last week and a half, 2 weeks. So I will list everything that I have found. First up, Castlevania Resurrection, canceled Castlevania game for the Dreamcast, was found, or at least pieces of the game was found, and you could rip the ISO to and play it on your Dreamcast or on your PC. But apparently there is in the first version that was released, the game levels were set in a debug mode where you'd choose the level that you'd want to play and you can kind of run around it. There were some enemies and whatnot, but apparently there are builds where all of the game's levels are included but not connected, but they're like more or less complete. So like all of the work is done. A dev would have one of the builds, but since it's a Japanese game, we probably won't see those.
That's another, man, that would be another thing I would love to ask like a preservationist or someone that knows law, or maybe even the answers, is why is it just because it's far away?
I've heard it is more of another cultural thing. I've heard from I believe it was Chris Kohler when I listened to one of the old podcasts from the 2000s. So I don't know how current this information is, but I remember them speaking, and it's kind of a cultural thing where they feel like, no, this thing is ours. Like, it's Japanese, it's ours. You're not going to get it. Yeah. And I will keep it till I die. That's basically how it is. There's a couple more stories similar to that we'll get to. So, this is from Rockman Cosmo on Twitter, but the demo of Final Fantasy VII Dirge of Cerberus Lost Episode has been preserved by several users. They did some major work to get it working on the Doja 5.1 SDK emulator, but the emulation is not perfect. Before I continue, this was a cell phone game on the old flip phones in Japan that had rudimentary 3D graphics. When it comes to game preservation, there are tons of versions of those games that we cannot play because they are all dependent on old mobile Java and just the type of tech that those things ran on. And they're apparently just incredibly difficult to get working. So there's a lot of mobile games that we just don't have or can't, So this is kind of one of the major breakthroughs. There are some audio issues. The game runs unevenly due to its three-dimensional graphics, but when there is a more comprehensive emulator, which that's also a problem, is being able to build the emulator to do all that, these issues will be ironed out. Methods of getting this game to run also varies between Windows versions. So that's also another issue. Too many things. Okay. Here's another Japanese thing. Two more, actually, the last ones. To commemorate the recent release of his latest book, Not for Resale Guidebook Gold, author and collector Jiro Nosuke will be showcasing a range of prototype and pre-release software from his personal collection next week in Osaka. Among the highlights are prototypes for Mega Man 1, 3, and Mega Man X. This event will mark the very first public viewing of these early versions, which currently remain undumped, which means they're not online. You can't find them. Yoronosuke has previously alluded to a number of differences, both minor and significant, between these prototypes and the final retail versions. It'll be, fun to watch. However, the attendees will not be able to play these games. Rather, he will demonstrate them himself on the stage. And he will never dump them. He's already stated.
Okay. Alrighty. Interesting.
The canceled, almost finished Daredevil PS2 game has been shared online by an anonymous developer who worked on it almost 20 years later.
Nice.
Which
That's
I hear
awesome.
was supposed to be a cool game from what I understand. And the last story, which is also very sad, this involved Frank Cifaldi. The Yahoo auction for Battle Choice, an unreleased Konami game from 1988, has ended for 2,401,000 yen, which, because the yen is just completely down in the dumps compared to the US dollar, is about $15,845.
Oh, that's still a pretty penny.
It is. According to Unseen64, this game is undumped and no screenshots ever existed of the game until it was put up for Yahoo auctions. These are the first screens that we have seen. It's a hybrid fighter with a chess-like system. Frank Cifaldi lost the bid. He was second. And the first bid went to a Japanese collector, which in the comments, basically everybody was like, well, we're never going to see it. Like, that's it. We're just never going to see it. Sorry.
And if Frank Cifaldi got it, I imagine he probably wouldn't be able to. Would he be able just to dump that?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
He would?
That's what he does. Yeah.
Well, because I know that, and this is something that when he's on the show next week, we'll talk about, but that the Video Game History Foundation, a lot of the preservation they do, they toe the line when it comes to legality sometimes.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
So I am curious, like, what that line is, and if when he is ever at what instances does he say to himself, I have this thing, but I can't just dump it on the internet because I may get sued.
Yeah, you'll have to ask him next week.
Yeah, or this thing I have and I'm going to put it on the internet because I know I can get away with it and it's legal.
I would say, at best he would dump it immediately with no repercussions, but at worst he would just make an entire video playthrough of the game.
That's too bad.
It is too bad. Yeah, it is too bad. Yeah.
I would, if I were a philanthropist, sahelanthropist, I would finance like an Ocean's 11, and then you'd have all these badasses. They're like, right, what casino we robbing? What we robbing the money plane? And I'm like, no, you guys are stealing this video game from this Japanese guy's house in somewhere in Japan. Go do that. And they're like, what? I fought in Afghanistan for 10 years. I'm an ex-Navy SEAL. It's like, okay, well, you're gonna go get this chess game for me, all right? And go.
It's very cool because the screenshot, it looks like a NES version of Deadliest Warrior.
Okay.
Like you choose like a samurai and then like an army dude, and like you will fight against them like somehow. So yeah.
That show, Deadliest. I don't know how many clips you've seen of that show.
Yeah, ridiculous.
That show is the dumbest.
Yeah.
Have you guys ever seen the episode where it's like the IRA versus like Al Qaeda or something like that? Mm-hmm. So you have the Irish Republican Army and they fight in like a used car lot. It's like, what kind of shit is this? Oh my god, it's so funny. Okay, I'm sorry.
It is okay. We're gonna move on to the Circana numbers. I'll run through these here, but let's see here. Consumer spending on video game hardware accessories fell 5% versus the year average to $4 billion. Declines were experienced across all categories. The dip was partially driven by Call of Duty shifting release months.
Okay.
Year-to-date consumer spending across video game products remained 2% higher than a year ago at $43.4 billion. Spending on video game content in October fell 4% when compared to a year ago to $3.6 billion. Growth in physical software and mobile spending was offset by declines in other areas, particularly digital premium downloads driven by the release date shift of Call of Duty, which I guess it's because they moved to November now instead of October. Yeah, I thought it always released in November, but...
Yeah, me too.
Because I know Madden always releases in August, like always, right before the NFL season starts.
Yeah.
Anyways, Marvel Spider-Man 2 was the best-selling game of October, instantly becoming the fourth best-selling game of 2023 year-to-date. It also led all titles in physical software dollar sales during October.
Interesting. Okay.
Super Mario Wonder debuted as the second best-selling game of October 23. It currently ranks as the 21st best-selling game of 2023 year-to-date. Note, digital sales for Nintendo-published titles are not included in the title sales ranking charts because Nintendo can suck on one. Video game hardware spending fell 23% when compared to a year ago to $327 million. All current generation consoles experienced double-digit percentage decline in dollar sales when compared to a year ago. I won't do the rest of it because it's just the PS5's best-selling system, controller best-selling system, you know.
That keeps rolling and rolling.
But this is interesting. 78. That is the number of consecutive months that Mario Kart 8 Deluxe appeared in the NPD/Circana Top 20 sales charts since its April 2017 debut. 78 months on the charts, top 20.
Wow.
That streak ended this week with Mario Kart 8 Deluxe finishing outside of the top 20 for October. It's because everyone has fucking bought that game.
Yeah, like...
Except you. You don't have it.
I do.
What?
No, I
you
don't
never told me that. Oh, shit. I don't have it either.
Well, actually, I don't. I don't know if I have Deluxe. Is Deluxe?
Deluxe is the only one.
Deluxe is the only one. Okay,
then
that's the one I have. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, and I've played the shit out of it. I wonder if they'll release another Mario Kart, right?
So there was a rumor I heard or I read yesterday, which I don't know why I keep going to the site, but anyways, apparently they stated that apparently Mario Kart 10 will be the most expensive Nintendo game that they have produced so far.
Mario Kart 9.
Mario Kart.
Oh, sorry, 9. I'm sorry. Yes, my bad.
Really?
Yeah.
That seems weird to me.
But I don't know if that's because Nintendo is so bare bones, not in a bad way, like in a good way. Like one of the best-selling games of all time is Wii Sports.
Yeah.
Of course, that has an attachment rate to the console. But if you look at Wii Sports as a package, it's very, the Miis are like little,
it's not graphically intensive.
Like, and if you ever emulated that game, it's like less than 500 megabytes. Like it is a small ass game. Super Mario All-Stars for the Wii, if you play that game, if you put it in your system and start it up, you can eject the game and play the entire game because it all fits on the RAM.
Wow.
It's all loaded into the RAM and it fits there. Same with Animal Crossing on GameCube. If you start Animal Crossing on the GameCube and just take the disc, you can play the entire game because it's so small it fits on.
And that's always been Nintendo's thing. They've never been. It doesn't seem like Nintendo. I don't know. I don't know what the budget. I'm sure Tears of the Kingdom was expensive to make. I would be incredibly surprised if it was as expensive as anything PlayStation has made.
Yeah. And if you even look at the data for Tears of the Kingdom, it's less than 18 gigabytes, I think. Yeah. And if you take into account just all the other games, Cyberpunk being over 120 gigabytes. But I understand we're talking about different graphical fidelities and different sizes of the right. Yeah. Yes. But Nintendo also knows how to, unlike all the other developers out there, they know how to compress their information.
And they're also, I think it helps that they only develop for their console. Would that change if Tears of the Kingdom was ported to PC and they'd have to figure out a different way to do things technologically?
Add the 4K and everything.
Yeah, that would probably change things. So it probably helps that they don't even have to worry about that. Man, I'm really interested. Nintendo's a horrible company, et cetera, but I'm still excited for Switch 2.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. No, I mean, I totally get it. I am too.
Yeah, but I'm really hoping. And one of the big regrets for Tears of the Kingdom is how it can really chug, because that sort of dampens the experience for me every now and then. I'm sorry. Do you have any other?
Just one more thing.
Okay.
So with the 25th anniversary update last week for Half-Life, which I did not pick up the free version because I'm dumb. Half-Life jumped from being ranked 438 in the US Steam daily active players on November 11th to number 6 on November 18th, with the player count jumping more than 80 times the amount.
Yeah, it's one of those, man. Half-Life was really good. Have you ever played the first Half-Life?
A little bit.
Very good game.
Yeah, I gotta play it again because I remember playing it on PS2. And,
nice. Okay. With the orange.
This train ride is boring.
Hey, it's a perfect game, beginning to end.
I don't know about that.
Okay, well,
Half-Life 2 is kind of perfect though.
It is.
No, it's pretty perfect.
Real quick,
Yes.
I just want to talk about this, but I looked up that Deadliest Warrior episode, and it's the IRA versus the Taliban.
Yes.
And not only is that just a ridiculous concept, it was the season finale. That was their big one. It was the
Yes.
IRA versus the Taliban.
I'm pretty sure if you watch the episode, like at the end, the IRA, spoiler alert, the IRA is,
The IRA are victorious, yeah.
but it plays like flogging, like like it plays like flogging Molly.
Oh
as
my
the
God.
IRA, like rejoicing their victory. Oh my God. Oh, that's something. There's just something so hilarious about that. Oh my God. Anyway, okay. Follow us on Twitter and Facebook at The Gaming Discourse, youtube.com/Gaming Discourse. Go check out my new video, and we'll see you next week.
Bye-bye.